A woman called out flirtatiously to the imposing figure of Chen Jinhu. He ignored her, puffing on a thick cigar while gazing out at the rainy city below. She tried to lure him back, asking why he was staring at a dumpy street when she was right there. Chen Jinhu rebuffed her, stating coldly that a king must survey his territory. Undeterred, she touched his arm and asked if his title made her the queen. He turned, a look of pure contempt on his face as he scoffed at the notion. Chen Jinhu then erupted in a booming, mocking laugh. This was the king of the night, a man who had lorded over the city of Jiangcheng for 20 years. In the city's criminal underworld, a powerful figure named Chen Jinhu reigned supreme. His empire was built on casinos, loan sharking, collateral, and transport. His influence was so vast that he was known as Chen Half City. After midnight, he was the city's one true ruler. Meanwhile, Landon's associate anxiously warned him about this very man. He told Landon that Chen Jinhu was a mad dog who had set his sights on their demolition project. Mr. Dong then revealed a chilling rumor: Chen Jinhu had connections to the Chen family of the capital. Landon's eyes widened in shock and fury at the mention of that name. A dark memory of a gunman flashed through his mind. A sinister smile crept across Landon's face, his eyes glowing with a dangerous light as he recalled his history with these bastards. Landon's eyes burned with intensity as he realized he finally had a lead. A chilling smirk played on his lips. Sitting beside him in the car, a stunned Dang asked if Landon also knew the infamous Chen family. Landon coolly confirmed he knew a thing or two, adding that Dang was right about one thing. He explained that Chen Jinhu was nothing but a mad dog raised by the Chen family. Landon's expression shifted to pure unbridled rage, his eyes glowing red as he clenched his fist. He vowed that if that dog dared to step out of line, he would chop its paw off. Just as quickly, his fury subsided and he calmly instructed Dang to proceed with acquiring a building. Landon assured him he would provide the money and handle the rest. Dang could only stammer in terrified agreement. Landon's thoughts turned inward, recalling a grudge against the Chen family from his past life. Staring out into the night, he decided it was finally time to collect some interest. Inside the Golden Tiger Entertainment City, Chen Jinhu exploded with rage. He roared, furious that the bar in the old district was snatched from under their noses. One man confirmed the bad news, explaining that the original owner had sold the building to someone else. Losing his temper, Chen Jinhu yelled, "How dare they!" He viciously backhanded the man across the face. Chen Jinhu fumed, revealing they had set the whole thing up, even drugging the owner only for someone else to take the prize. He furiously demanded to find out who was responsible. Just then, a manager in a purple suit arrived, greeted by two panicked subordinates. The manager tried to calm the raging Chen Jinhu. He assured him they were already investigating and held out his phone. Chen Jinhu glared at the photo displayed on the screen. He had received an update on his phone. The image showed Landon standing next to a man identified as Dong Li. Chen Jinhu recognized the man as Dong Dapao, a sycophant of the fallen Yang family. He was enraged that Dong Dapao was still around and demanded to know who the student Landon was. One of his underlings advised caution, pointing out that Dong Dapao was a precinct chief and a direct confrontation would be unwise. Ignoring the warning, Chen Jinhu ordered one of his men to investigate Landon and bring him a complete file within 3 days. He then commanded another subordinate to take some men and stake out the bar to watch their next move. Chen Jinhu leaned in close, delivering a brutal threat to ensure his orders were followed without fail. Meanwhile, unaware they were now targets, Landon and his classmate walked away into the rainy city night. Landon's companion grabbed his arm, his face etched with terror. He frantically warned Landon that they were about to enter the territory of Chen Jinhu. A man he had heard was incredibly scary. Landon remained calm, dismissing his friend's fears and telling him to stick to the plan. He instructed the boy to just wait there and play on his phone, assuring him that he would be the one to take any risks. A sinister grin spread across Landon's face as his eyes glowed crimson, promising his companion that nothing would happen to him. Still terrified, the boy protested, saying they were too young to be in such a dangerous place. Landon called his bluff, casually suggesting they turn back and forget about the new game console he was promised. At the mention of the console, the boy panicked and grabbed Landon, shouting for him to wait. After a moment of stammering, he relented and simply told Landon to be careful. Landon let out a quiet breath, a faint smile on his lips as he prepared to move forward. In the pouring rain, Landon instructed his companion to stay hidden. He told them to wait for his signal. Landon smirked as he looked upon the Golden Tiger Entertainment building, identifying it as the base of the Underground Emperor. He resolved to pay the Emperor a visit. With a crazed grin, Landon hoped he wouldn't be disappointed. He walked confidently toward the building alone. Landon approached a side entrance, recalling from his past life that a secret door was located here. He knocked firmly. A small barred window slid open, revealing an annoyed guard. The guard gruffly told Landon to get lost. Landon recognized the phrase "we're not open tonight" as the password he had read about in the case files. Landon smirked, satisfied with his enigmatic response. He arrived at a clandestine location, peering through a barred window before being greeted. A doorman questioned Landon, nodding he was an unfamiliar face. With a confident grin, Landon tossed a stack of cash into the air. He then demanded to see what kind of entertainment the establishment offered. The doorman's attitude completely changed, and he eagerly clapped his hands together. On cue, several women in bunny girl outfits emerged to welcome their new high roller. One of the women gestured for the handsome Landon to follow her deeper inside. In the pouring rain, a desperate man pleaded outside the Jinhu Entertainment City. Inside, a gambler was on his knees begging for more money to win back his losses. Landon watched the scene unfold as security was called to intervene. The man was unceremoniously dragged away. A casino employee in a bunny costume approached Landon. She tried to flatter him, saying he looked lucky and was going to make a killing. Landon scoffed, dismissing her notion. He coldly stated that gambling wasn't a game of luck when she asked what it was. He turned the question back on her. With a determined look, Landon demanded 100,000 in chips. The employee immediately agreed to his request. Landon sat at the poker table, his crimson eyes locking onto his opponent. He coolly wished the other player good luck, but as he entered the gambling den, Landon internally scoffed at the very idea of luck. He believed that while many think gambling is about chance, it's actually a psychological game. He smirked, knowing it was also about a few insignificant little tricks. The dealer began to deal the cards for the game. Landon checked his hand, nodding it was decent but not a guaranteed win. Across the table, another player let out a deliberate cough. Landon's gaze snapped towards the man, instantly recognizing the signal. Landon carefully observed his opponents at the poker table. He noticed the larger man's ear twitch, concluding he must have a strong hand. His gaze then shifted to the long-haired player. Landon couldn't read the man's expression, but he suspected the man was using his long pinky nail to mark the cards. The dealer announced that everyone had seen their cards and asked for raises. The large man called and raised 5,000 while the long-haired man just called. The dealer then turned to Landon, asking for his bet. Landon declared all in. He shoved his entire stack of chips into the pot. The other players were stunned by his sudden move, with the large man shouting in disbelief. Chen Jinhu sweat, questioning if Landon's hand was as good as he was letting on. Dang eyed Landon suspiciously, wondering if it was all just a bluff. Landon turned to the dealer, claiming it was his first time playing. He innocently asked if having a super big hand meant he should bet more. The dealer hesitantly agreed. Landon feigned relief, making his opponents even more nervous. Unwilling to risk it, one man announced that he was folding. The other man immediately followed his lead and folded as well. Landon smirked, having won the pot without a challenge. The dealer asked him to reveal his cards before they reshuffled. Landon triumphantly slapped down his cards, just an ace of hearts and a king of spades. Dang was stunned, realizing Landon's hand wasn't even that good. He fumed, admitting he thought Landon had at least a flush. Both opponents looked on in fury as one man yelled that Landon had successfully bluffed them. A furious gambler searched for Landon, angry that the little brat had slipped away after winning all his money. Landon, already gone, knew he had to move on to the next table before his trick was discovered. A woman in a bunny costume approached, congratulating him on his impressive win. She flirted, suggesting that since she had brought him so much luck, he should buy her a drink. Landon bluntly rejected her, calling her auntie and stating he was still in school. The woman was completely stunned by the insult. Ignoring her shock, Landon asked if there were any faster-paced games he could play. Recovering, she smirked and suggested a more thrilling game. The scene shifted to a chaotic sick bow table with gamblers shouting their bets for big or small. Landon calmly placed his chips on small. Another player anxiously pleaded for his bet to come through. The dealer shook the dice cup with practiced ease. Landon listened with intense focus, his eyes analyzing every subtle sound. He deciphered the collision frequency and the landing spots of the dice inside. With a final sharp thud, Landon's eyes widened in realization. He had it. Just as the dealer made the final call for bets, Landon shoved his entire stack of chips into the middle of the table. He bet everything on big. The other players were stunned as Landon went all in again, having already won several hands in a row. The dealer lifted the cup, revealing the results. The dice showed a 4, 5, and 6, a big win. The onlookers were in disbelief, attributing Landon's impossible streak to insane luck. Dang stared at Landon, his face a mask of pure disbelief. He internally questioned how Landon kept winning, wondering if he was using some kind of X-ray glasses. Landon, holding a single chip, calmly told him to continue. With a weary expression, Landon stated he was tired and wanted to win quickly so he could go home and sleep. The terrified man could only stammer in agreement. His mind raced, panicking at the thought of Landon winning even faster. He fretted over how he could possibly explain this to his boss. In a back room, Chen Jinhu watched the game on a security monitor. Furious, he snapped his cigar in half, screaming that this wasn't a charity. Chen Jinhu fumed that Landon didn't know the simple rule of quitting while he was ahead. He barked an order to his subordinate to bring him that Japanese broad. The subordinate quickly responded, yes. Landon's winnings piled up on the gambling table, a mountain of chips growing with every round. A man and his companion stared in disbelief. The companion gasped, "Whoa, he's won several million by now, right?" Bystanders were in awe, wondering if Landon was the god of gamblers. Another gambler noted that this was the first time he had ever seen the house cry. The dealer was indeed wiping tears from his eyes. The man smirked, "He's their daddy now. Guess the boss is about to change, huh?" His friend worried about what the casino boss would do, suggesting Landon might be sold off as a gigolo. The man was shocked by the thought. Suddenly, a nearby door creaked open. Two imposing bodyguards in suits and sunglasses emerged, flanking a tall woman. They approached Landon's table. The woman stepped forward, her high heels clicking on the floor. She walked with an air of authority that intimidated others. Turning to the tearful dealer, she dismissed him. "You can go now." The dealer quickly agreed and scurried away. A woman with striking blue eyes watched from a distance. Landon sat at the gambling table, his gaze fixed on her. He thought to himself, "This woman, she looks so familiar." Suddenly, an announcer made a grand declaration. "Everyone, next Ms. Niyama Chizuru will personally be serving this gentleman." Landon's eyes widened in utter shock at the name. Niyama Chizuru, he thought, isn't she supposed to be in the golden triangle? Ignoring his reaction, Niyama calmly placed the dice cup on the table. "Well then, sir," she said, her voice steady, "please prepare to place your bet." The story opened in Shibuya, Tokyo on May 17, 2019. Loud laughter echoed from an unseen source. Inside a traditional room, a woman in a kimono sat across from Landon. She asked if the noise outside was bothering him, but Landon calmly replied that it was fine. The woman described the atmosphere as noisy, dangerous, and chaotic, yet full of life. As she poured him a drink, Landon identified it as the essence of Shibuya at night. The woman smiled, remarking that this kind of vibrant energy was a rare find. Landon sat with his eyes closed, lost in thought. "Don't close them," he said, opening his own intense, crimson eyes. A woman in a kimono, Miss Chizuru, gracefully stepped onto the table before him. She looked down at the kneeling Landon and compared his eyes to those of a wolf. As she touched his chin, she asked him to keep his piercing gaze fixed on her. Landon retorted that she was the one who was like a dangerous cat. Leaning in closer, Miss Chizuru assured him that a cat wouldn't pry into his secrets. She offered to keep him company for the night. Landon's mind flashed back to an intimate moment from his past. He recalled a woman in a kimono who, while drunk, had shared a secret with him. She had told him that to truly understand the dice, he must feel their breath. This intense focus must also be used to perceive the subtle language of an opponent's muscles. She had compared this deep connection to the feeling of her own heartbeat as he held her. The memory faded, and Landon's focus returned to the gambling table in the present. As his opponent prepared her move, he put the lesson into practice. He concentrated on her breath and the language of the muscles, ready to read her intentions. The dealer vigorously shook the dice cup. Landon closed his eyes, concentrating with superhuman focus. His crimson eyes snapped open, analyzing every subtle detail of the dealer's movements. He noted her relaxed hands, the tension in her neck, and even the direction of her clothes' folds. The dealer placed the cup down, asking for his bet. A sharp, confident smirk spread across Landon's face. He shoved a mountain of chips forward, going all in on a specific triple, 3 threes. The onlookers were stunned by his reckless confidence, declaring him insane. The dealer, Miss Niyama, reacted with shock to Landon's bet on a specific triple. She insisted it was impossible, but Landon coolly told her to open the cup. With a nervous expression, she lifted the cover. The dice revealed a triple one, exactly as Landon predicted. The onlookers were stunned into silence. A man stared blankly, his mind reeling from the impossible outcome and the $50 million payout. In stark contrast, one gambler erupted with excitement, praising Landon as a god of gamblers. Amid the commotion, Landon calmly addressed Miss Niyama, thanking her. Chizuru stood with her head bowed as her name was called. Elsewhere, the owner, Chen Jinhu, erupted in a fiery rage, demanding to know who was tearing up his establishment. A panicked employee rushed to his side, exclaiming that he saw who was responsible. He explained that the one causing the commotion was the same person who was trying to buy the bar. Chen Jinhu's anger boiled over as he learned this person was not only buying his bar but also winning all his money. He screamed in outrage, questioning if there was any justice in the world. Chen Jinhu immediately ordered his men, Bao and Hu, to grab their weapons and follow him. Enraged, Chen Jinhu screamed, vowing to desecrate his enemy's entire family line. Meanwhile, at the casino, an employee addressed a massive pile of winnings. Landon, on his phone, coolly told the employee to cash out the chips quickly. He then spoke into a vintage rotary phone, telling someone named Jai that it was their turn. Suddenly, Chen Jinhu and his men burst in, confronting Landon. Chen Jinhu furiously accused Landon of wrecking his place and trying to run. A dark aura surrounded Chen Jinhu as he raised a massive blade, preparing to execute Landon. He swung the blade down, demanding Landon's life. Just then a flash of blue energy erupted. The entire room was plunged into darkness. Chen Jinhu and his men were left confused, wondering what had just happened. With the light suddenly restored, one of Chen Jinhu's men looked around in relief. He turned to the manager, demanding to know where Lord Tiger was. The manager could only stare in stunned silence, sweating profusely at the sight before him. On the floor, the mighty Chen Jinhu lay utterly defeated. His men cried out his name in shock and rushed to his aid. Meanwhile, Landon stood outside, shaking out his hand in annoyance. He remarked that Chen Jinhu's thick skin had made his own hand hurt. A woman's voice called out for her partner Deng Jai, asking if he was ready to leave. As Landon walked away with 2 briefcases, he was stopped by a woman in a purple bunny outfit. She looked him up and down, asking what a little guy like him was doing here. Landon stared back silently as she taunted him, asking if he was looking to die. As Landon tried to leave, his path was blocked by the woman in the purple bunny suit and her 2 enforcers. He asked her to move, but calling her auntie instantly sent her into a rage. Furious, she ordered her men to get him and retrieve the casino's money. Her thugs eagerly surrounded Landon, threatening to smash his face if he didn't hand over the cash. Landon sighed, muttering to himself that he hadn't planned on angering a woman. His words only fueled her fury. She screamed that he hadn't just angered her but had incurred the wrath of Lord Tiger. Landon scoffed at the threat, comparing her to a rabbit working for a tiger. Suddenly, a small projectile zipped past with incredible speed, embedding itself in the wall. Landon zipped up his jacket, his expression unconcerned. He dismissed his opponents, muttering that there were just a few small fry left. A powerful, fiery aura erupted around him, revealing the immense energy he had been holding back. He coolly challenged his opponents, "To save time, why don't you all come at me at once?" One of the thugs, Dang, stared back in furious disbelief. "You've got a lot of nerve, huh?" he snarled. Provoked, Dang's entire crew rushed towards Landon. "You'll have to get through me first," one of them shouted. Dang led the charge, screaming as he swung a pipe at Landon's head. But in an instant, Landon's hand flashed out and stopped the weapon cold. Dang was left utterly stunned, his attack completely neutralized. With crimson eyes burning, Landon clenched his fist. In a flash, he lunged forward, smashing his opponent with overwhelming force. The man was sent flying through the air, crashing hard onto the ground below. One of the thugs cried out in disbelief, "B-boss." Landon stood over the fallen leader, who groaned in defeat. Dang and the other henchmen watched in stunned silence. Landon turned his cold gaze to the remaining 2. His question hung in the air, leaving them frozen in place. Dang trembled in pure terror, his arrogance completely gone. The thugs decided to attack all at once, one of them even grabbing a brick. A confident smirk spread across Landon's face. He instantly sprang into action, launching himself into the air above his attackers. As Landon spoke, a powerful blue aura exploded around him. He descended like a meteor, unleashing a flurry of devastating kicks that hit multiple opponents simultaneously. In a flash, the entire group was wiped out, left unconscious on the ground. Landon stood alone amidst the carnage, completely untouched. A woman in a purple bunny suit stared in disbelief at a small, defeated robot on the ground. Shanzi coldly informed her that she was next. He suddenly appeared right in front of her, a menacing grin spreading across his face as she recoiled in terror. The woman let out a piercing scream and immediately fled. Shanzi watched her go, surprised by her speed. His partner, Deng Jai, appeared behind him, calling his name. Shanzi asked if the job was done. Deng Jai proudly held up a massive coil of power lines. He explained that he had found the backup generator and cut the power to the entire street. Thrilled with himself, Deng Jai asked if his plan was badass. Shanzi flatly agreed. Deng Jai excitedly suggested they should drop out of school and become career criminals. Unimpressed, Shanzi simply said it was time to go. As they walked away, Deng Jai continued to push his idea. Shanzi ignored him, forcing Deng Jai to chase after him. A woman in a bunny outfit gasped as a small, golden object floated away from her. She wondered aloud why the power had suddenly gone out on the entire street. Just then 2 men appeared, one of whom she recognized as her manager. Relieved, she called out for backup. Her expression quickly turned to panic as she realized her target was gone. Another man, a stern-looking manager with a ponytail, appeared and snatched the floating object from the air. He viciously slapped the woman across the face, calling her a thief. As she cried out in pain, he accused her of letting the kid get away. In a back room, the woman desperately pleaded her innocence. The manager was unmoved, claiming he had seen everything on the surveillance footage. He accused her of working with the kid, getting close to him all night to set up the escape. The woman was horrified by the accusation. With tears in her eyes, she proclaimed her unwavering loyalty to Master Hu. The manager coldly replied that he didn't care. The manager menacingly told the bunny girl that someone needed to take responsibility for the night's events. He ordered his men to interrogate her, convinced she knew Landon. The 2 men cornered the terrified woman as she collapsed to the floor, pleading with him. Meanwhile, Landon made his escape, leaping from the building into the night. The next day, Landon was back in class, but his mind was far from the lesson. He mulled over his strategy, thinking that Chen Jinhu must be too busy to deal with the old district acquisition now. Landon reviewed a map, acknowledging the progress being made but reminding himself not to get greedy. He knew that once news of the demolition leaked, prices would skyrocket and competitors would swarm in. Landon decided he had to quit while he was ahead. With his newly acquired cash, he planned to start his own security company and find a few helpers. A memory flashed, showing Chen Jinhu and his crew standing before an ominous, blood-red backdrop. The scene abruptly shifted to a classroom where a teacher was in the middle of a lecture. He singled out a student, demanding, "Landon, you answer this question." The teacher leaned over Landon's desk, aggressively quizzing him on the intersection of sets F and A. Landon, whose weary eyes were identical to Landon's, stared back in complete confusion. He hesitantly responded, "Bananas." The teacher's face twisted in exasperation, calling Landon a lost cause. He scolded Landon for ditching class and not paying attention, questioning if he even wanted to pass the college entrance exams. Landon argued back, insisting he was listening and that the topic was about bananas. Furious, the teacher slammed his hand down, yelling that the monthly exams were just around the corner. He got right in Landon's face, vowing not to let him drag down the class average. As punishment, the teacher sentenced him to remedial classes after school. Landon protested, pointing to the student next to him who was sound asleep on his desk. He complained that the sleeping student was obviously worse and was even talking in his sleep. The teacher responded with biting sarcasm, telling Landon to listen to what the sleeping boy was saying. Landon slept soundly in class, muttering complex geometry proofs in his dream. A classmate pointed him out, whispering to a friend that Landon got away with sleeping because he was ranked 4th in their grade. The friend was stunned by this revelation, his eyes wide with disbelief. Later, Landon wearily made his way to a tutoring center. A voice called out, "Landon, you're late." Landon sighed, annoyed that they even took attendance. Suddenly, a familiar girl's voice chided him about forming good habits. Landon's eyes widened in shock as he recognized the speaker. He stared at her, demanding to know what she was doing there. A purple-haired girl sat confidently on a desk, looking down at Landon. "And why can't I be?" she asked coolly. Landon, taken by surprise, mistook her presence for a coincidence. She quickly corrected him, announcing that she was actually his teacher for this class. Landon was stunned, stammering that they were both students. He demanded to know what gave her the right to be his tutor. With a self-assured smirk, she revealed she was the top student in their grade. She then explained that she had the courage to specifically ask the principal to be his tutor after hearing he would be there. Leaning in close, her expression softened as she gave him a final warning. "You'd better work hard, Landon."